Hi everyone, I'm Miss Adam, and as you can see today I'm in the food tech room away from home. So today I thought we could have a go at something that I designed just for you lot. So I thought we could have a go at making some 3D biscuits. I have designed some templates for you which you can find along with the recipe. There's one for dinosaurs and one for sea creatures. You could have a go at making one or both, it's obviously up to you. The first thing you'll obviously need to do is to cut out all the relevant pieces of whichever set you're going to make. This is a fun opportunity to do something a bit different. You could try decorating the biscuits perhaps. These would be a great option for summer, when you're having a party perhaps, or raising money for charity, because they're obviously a little bit different. The first thing that we need to do is to preheat our oven to 180 degrees Celsius or gas mark 4 to ready ourselves for practical or mise en place, which means hair, apron, hot soapy water, sanitising our surfaces, washing our hands and getting our equipment. We can go through the ingredients now. We are making a simple gingerbread biscuit recipe. It should be fairly foolproof, the kind of thing you can use to make gingerbread houses at Christmas. We will need 150 grams of plain flour, 65 grams of butter, 50 grams of brown sugar, you could use light brown or dark brown, it doesn't really matter, 2 tablespoons or about 30 grams of golden syrup. We need a teaspoon of ginger, half a teaspoon of cinnamon and half a teaspoon of bicarbonate of soda. The first thing that we need to do is to put all our dry ingredients into our mixing bowl. So I'm going to pop my flour in, and it doesn't need to be sieved because we're making biscuits, we don't necessarily need to aerate it. If you'd like to sieve it to remove any lumps, you certainly can. We're going to get our measuring spoons, and we need half a teaspoon of bicarbonate of soda. So I'm going to pop it in, shake it until it's level and then add it in. We need half a teaspoon of ground cinnamon. So again, shake it until it's level, add it in. And 1 teaspoon of ginger, which is quite a lot, but then that's obviously what makes it a gingerbread biscuit. There we go. And then we can just mix them all together in the bowl. And place that to one side. Next, we want to add our wet ingredients into our saucepan because we're going to warm it up. So I'm going to add my butter or margarine, and my sugar. And then this is where we need to be a little bit cautious. Although the recipe calls for 2 tablespoons, if we were to use a tablespoon measure, the chances are we would get a lot stuck on the inside of the spoon, and every half teaspoon counts. So the best way is actually to weigh it on your weighing scales. So I'm going to pop it on there, turn it on so that it's zeroed, so that it has the weight of everything. Then I can just get myself just a teaspoon or a spoon, and I'm going to add it in. If you twizzle it around, it stops it from going everywhere. I'm going to add it in, and you'll start to see the numbers climb. So 13, twizzling it around, keeping it there. Because the thing about adding any kind of liquid, whether it's viscous or not, there's 30, there we go, is that there's a delay between the amount that you take out and the amount that you put in there. So if you have any left on the spoon, grab another spoon and just put it back into the container. So with my wooden spoon, we are going to pop this onto a medium-low heat, so 3 or 4 or a mid to low flame. We want to just heat it up until everything dissolves. It won't take too long, maybe a minute or 2. So I'll come back and see you in a second. So it's been on the hob for around a minute. You can see it's starting to loosen up, and I just want to keep stirring it making sure that you're scraping the bottom, because if you're just moving it around slightly, there might be spots that are burning. Make sure you're scraping the whole bottom. And also remembering, of course, that our pan handle should be out to the side, not out to the front or over another hob that could be also warm. There we go, you can see it's getting there now. We don't want it to be molten, we don't want it to be incredibly hot, we don't want it to be bubbling. We just want it to be warm all the way through and homogeneous and mixed. And I think that looks about right. There we go. So the sugar, butter and syrup have all dissolved, so they're nice and loose. I popped it on a trivet because obviously the pan's still warm. I don't want to burn the surfaces. Now we're going to add it into our dry ingredients. Pop it all in. Make sure you scrape the sides. More food, less washing up. That sounds like a plan. There we go. Get all that lovely mix in. Then we're going to combine it with our spoon to begin with, and then we're going to get our hands in. So it's a fairly dry mix, actually less sticky than some of the recipes we've done before. Oh, it smells lovely. Cinnamon and ginger together, it's just my favourite. Okay, so when it's mostly combined, can't get it too much more than that, now we can get our hands in. So removing it from the spoon. I'm going to squeeze using the fleshy part of my hand and lots of effort from the shoulder. Push down over the top. It's quite warm, which feels a little odd. It's quite nice, really. It's like warm Play-Doh. If your biscuit dough is a little bit breakable, like this one is, it'd be worth adding a little more syrup. You don't want to go over the top, but just do a little bit like that to begin with. If we need to add more, then we can. Because we want this to have a similar texture, pliability and movement like pastry does. If we can't flip it around and move it, we're going to struggle. How's that looking? That's better. I think I could do with a little more. So that is holding itself better. It's less crumbly, it's a little bit more squidgy, it feels a bit more like a soft Play-Doh. So I think that's probably about workable. We'll see how it goes. Next, I'm going to flour my surface. Now I have my flour shaker here, or flour dredger, and the way to use one of these is to hold it sideways, not upside down like some people do incorrectly. So sideways, and we want to do it nice and high. So make it like it's snowing all the way across. There we go. I'll pop my dough in the middle, give it a bit of a press. There we go. And then, just like pastry, we want to do our best to keep it moving. I'm going to flour my rolling pin as well. So I'm going to roll it out nice and gently, not pressing very hard. letting the rolling pin do most of the work. I can flour it, and you should just be able to turn it over. If you can't, that's okay, as long as you rotate it and keep it moving. Try and just bring in the edges, just so it doesn't split too much. There we go. Because it has sugar in it, it's very sticky, so it's very, very likely to stick to the surface, so you want to be able to know that it's moving. There we go. Okay, so we want it to aim for about 5mm thick, or about sort of like a pound coin's thickness down there. So very much like pastry again. So it's going to be judgment call. Come down, have a look. I think you do just going a tiny bit thinner. There we go. And then just feel for any areas that might be a little bit tall. There we go. Now, this is where the fun bit comes in. We get to start cutting out our shapes. So if I pick this little guy to begin with, try and pick an area. Obviously don't start in the middle, but the edge can be a little bit cracked, so maybe just in from the edge for this little guy. Now I have a sharp knife here, a kitchen knife, utility knife, but we want to make sure that we are not going to cut the surface of the table. If you are concerned that you might do that, you could even roll out your dough on a chopping board with a tea towel underneath it to stop it from moving around. As long as we are very, very gentle, actually not barely even touching the surface of the table. The only really reason that we need a sharp knife for this is just because it cuts through it a bit more evenly and it has a thinner bleed. There we go. Now the reason I made these templates quite chunky and cartoony and fun is because they will change, they will shift, you can't get a lot of detail. That's where decoration comes in. There we go, one Brontosaurus. Now, to pick them up, I'm going to use a palette knife, but you could use a fish slice or even a spatula if necessary. So I'm going to lift them up very gently, give them a little bit of encouragement. First of all, just in case any part of them breaks. There we go. And then I want to flour, shaking my flour dredger like I did before, sideways, nice and high, so I get an even coating all the way across my tray. I'm going to very, very carefully lift him up and pop him on my tray. And I'm going to do that for the rest. So you can see so far I have got all my dinosaur themed biscuits here. Make sure you've got all the pieces that you need. So Brontosaurus has got 2 long legs, the Triceratops has got his plate and 2 short legs, the dinosaur's got 1 pair of long legs. And then of course if you have any scrap, any spare dough left over, you can make as many footprints and as many eggs as you want, or make multiples of these. I've got a little bit more, so I'm going to see if I can maybe make some sea creatures, and I'm going to pop these in the oven in the meantime. If your dough is a little bit fragile now that we've been rolling it in the flour, it might be worth adding another little bit of syrup just to make it nice and sticky again, because any addition of flour is going to dry it out. One of the key parts I wanted to show you was that of all the bits that need to be the right size, it's these sections. That's how they come together. It needs to be wider than the biscuit is wide in order to be able to fit onto it, but not too loose. So when the biscuits come out of the oven, do make sure that you're just taking a moment just to use your knife and cut free any bits that may have slumped in between, or maybe it just just a bit of misshapen. So there you go. And here's how they turned out. You can see they come together pretty well, and these are the ones that look like the way that they should. Unfortunately, on the first batch, I didn't realise that the oven ran so hot. Every oven is a little bit different. It's just something that we have to work with and practice with. So these got a little bit overcooked, unfortunately. They're a little bit dark, probably not edible, but never mind, I learned a lesson. On the next batch, I turned down the oven and gave them a little less time. So they should be solid. They should hold their shape, and they should be just golden at the edges and a very, very similar colour to the actual dough mix. They certainly shouldn't be as dark as these ones, but like I said, learned a lesson. I really hope you enjoyed making those with me today, and I hope that yours were more successful than some of my burnt ones. It just shows that even the best of us make mistakes sometimes, and I'll make another go of it and share them with my loved ones. I hope you do too. I'll see you next time.